Okay. All right, I'll start housekeeping. All right. Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. We're going to get started here. But my name is Jason Aspel, Deputy Executive Officer with the Engineering and Permitting Division here at South Coast AQMD. But we'll start off with our housekeeping comments. Thank you for joining us in our hybrid permit streamlining task force subcommittee meeting. We're going to do our best to make this meeting run smoothly and ask for your patience as we navigate this. There are 3 different ways for participation: in person, using Zoom on your computer or smartphone, and the teleconference or call-in option. During the meeting, all participants except for panelists will be placed on mute. That means you will not be able to mute or unmute your lines manually until called upon. We will be pausing throughout the presentation and welcome your questions or comments throughout the meeting. This forum is intended to facilitate discussion and information sharing. For those of you in the room, please raise your hand if you would like to ask a question or comment. You'll be called upon when it's your turn to speak. And please, well, we don't have microphones in the room. I will add these microphones are very sensitive, so they'll be able to pick up any noise, including your voices rather easily. So for those that are on Zoom, please click the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen, and the button looks like a raised hand. For those of you on teleconference, please dial *9 to signal that you would like to comment. Once you hear your name or a portion of your phone number, you will mute or you unmute your line automatically. If you did not get a chance to ask a question or you would like to have further discussions, staff contact information will be provided. Since we are not going through attendee introductions, we ask that you identify yourself and your affiliation or organization before initially speaking. Also, if you have a moment, please identify your organization on your Zoom screen name. Before we get to the presentation, I'd like to review some meeting guidelines. Profanity or discriminatory comments are prohibited. Disorderly, unruly, or aggressive behavior that infringes upon rights of others or disrupts the meeting is also prohibited. Any violation of these guidelines can result in your mic being muted or you being removed from the meeting. Now for our in-person attendees, if we do need to evacuate, there are 3 exits in the room, and in an emergency, please follow the lead of staff and follow to the muster points in the parking lot. And the restrooms are located through that door and to the right if needed. Need any other assistance, please let us know. But that concludes our housekeeping remarks. We'll bring the meeting to order. And I want to thank everyone once again, as always, for participating in this meeting and our in-person attendees. We do recognize some unforeseen circumstances are keeping our task force members from attending, and they will be able to listen in from wherever they're at. So with that, if we can do a roll call, Celia.
Good morning. Bill Lamar, absent. Bill Pierce.
Here.
Bill Quinn.
Here.
David Rothbart.
Here.
Judy York, absent.
All right. Thank you very much. So got a couple items on our agenda today. Before we get into that, I do want to introduce one of our newer senior managers, Senator Kim, who's now over the aerospace printing and plating team after Mitch Heimau's retirement this year. Just for everyone, since we typically go through an org chart, we just want to make everyone aware of that. So let's start over the slides if we could. All right, next slide, please.
Oh, you have a clicker?
I do not. Oh. Okay. Okay. So our agenda, what we're going to be doing today is our permitting workflow demo. We have been presenting this item to the board in our permitting enhancement program updates. So we've been very light on details, but what we wanted to do today is walk everyone through some of the details and where we're at with the development of this. Again, we're open to feedback on all this. A lot of this is the internal process, but industries will be communicating into the program, and it's all of your permit applications. So we wanted to allow for some more transparency of showing exactly where we're at with this and the plans for it. And then our second item is a general permitting update. This is an item that we've been wanting to get to for a while. It will take some time, but we wanted to break down we have been breaking down our application inventory a little bit more to dissect the details a little bit. So we wanted to take this opportunity in this meeting to go through that, allow task force members to share any observations or feedback they have on it. But it's something we are going to be diving into more as we go forward. And then we'll close out with our other business if anybody has any other items they want to bring up. So with that, I will now switch over to agenda item number 1. Zhen Chen, manager in our information management division, will be giving a live demonstration of the initial stages, I'll say, of the permitting workflow that we've been working on. So with that, I'll hand it over to Zhen.
Hi there, good morning. Zhen Chen, Information Technology Manager for System Development. So today we wanted to demo the new permit engineering portal, or we call PEP. And we've been developing this with the engineering team in the last few months. And I guess as mentioned many times before, engineering right now is using 4 large client server applications that were built in the 90s. And they're rigid and difficult to update as the rules change. So that meant a lot of the processes were done outside the system. And because of that, it's time consuming, for example, to just even collect statistics or do analysis. So our approach to this is to build a new foundation, a flexible workflow and a portal that will contain all aspects of a permit evaluation process. Then we'll start to migrate the functionalities of the legacy systems into it. This actually represents the first migration. So we have a system called PATS, which is the Permit Application Acceptance System. This system actually does quite a few of that functionality. This is the beginning of that migration. But the goal of this is really flexibility. And Jason and Jillian's design philosophy is to build a system that will allow engineering to put data in, to find what they need, do the things that they need to do, but stay out of their way. So this is our system, and so we'll take a look. So first, this is the first page. Let me minimize my screen. This is the first page. I'm logged in as an engineer. And as you can see, this dashboard shows a lot of information very quickly to an engineer. And on the left-hand side, you have all the assigned tasks. So these widgets are actually configurable by role. As an engineer, these are the widgets that provide the best information for the work. But as you move to a supervisor or manager later, you will see they'll have a different widgets and to show them different information they need. So right now, on the left-hand side, these are the tasks available for this engineer. These are the submittals that were made in a workflow, and any submittals or rejections. There's the details of applications or facilities assigned to the engineer. Here's an interesting one, is the additional information request and showing the statuses and the due dates. So we'll get more into the additional information request later in the demo. But just to show that also every one of the widgets can be customized by the engineer. So they can actually choose to see the information that they think help them the best. So let's just drill into application assigned. So these are all test data. We try to, and this is also the test system. So if things load slower, these are not the fastest systems. So first thing you can see is all the applications listed here in this facility are color-coded, and they designate that each facility, if the application is already completed or in process, which milestone that they're in process with. And then at the end, we can jump over. So we'll jump into one just for our sake. So the blue means it hasn't been touched. So we'll just try to do one just for our example. So in the first page of this, you'll see a breadcrumb on top. This shows all the milestones needed to complete an application process. Each milestone will be marked, as you see, as we move forward. The overview screen just provides application and facility information. So we'll move over to the evaluation task. And as you can see on the left-hand side, there's a set of configured tasks. On top are mandatory tasks. These are the ones that have to be completed before evaluation can be deemed complete. The next set are optional tasks. These may or may not apply to this particular application. And because of the need for flexibility here, all of these are configurable for the future and can be added and removed really easily. So I'm just going to show a little example here. Within a task, there's activities. Mandatory activities must be completed before a task is considered complete. An engineer will just be able to mark it as in progress as they start working. As it starts, I want to show the first feature that we have, the additional task. So as you start your evaluation, there's often you need to request for additional information. There's ability to request for additional information directly in the system. And here, there's a due date that we can set. Status is new for now. Here's an interesting thing is this shows that this application was submitted by external, so it came from online application. And because of that, the engineer actually have the option to let the applicant respond within the online application filing module. So in the dashboard of the online application filing, if the engineer chooses, the message can be sent over there and they can respond directly in that, and the information will be fed back into the system. Right now, for our demo purpose, we'll just pretend the engineering. So I'll just save the task first as a new task. So we'll see that it shows up in our dashboard. And then we'll just pretend that we're manually making a phone call or getting an email from that for that information. So we don't show you jumping between systems here. So this allows the engineer to collect the information, say, receive, and then also attach any attachments that they received directly here.
Zen, from an applicant perspective, you said it's within the application. How is the applicant getting pinged that.
So an email will be sent through the online application filing to the applicant to say you have a new task, please go in, log in and complete it.
And then just for everyone to know, existing system, it's all Outlook email, and then that gets transferred over electronically or printed into the application file.
This is all internal, just the staff would see this. This isn't facing external, just the users wouldn't have this level of detail.
No.
The permittees would
No, they would only see the communication coming in which more information is being requested. But this is all now built into the interface.
Yeah, and then technology will allow us in the future, if we need to design that together, to say, how do we interface directly from this page out to the applicant and receive the information directly back? So it's doable. So it'd be a process that we can set up in the future. So for now, I'm just closing completing the status of the application, pretend that we received the documents and we uploaded it. So this way, all the documents, all the information, the fact that the additional information request was made are all now tracked inside the system with contained here. So I'm just going to complete these tasks quickly. Just to be able to show that, as the required activities are closed, the task itself is closed, and then the milestone is updated to appear. So the next tab we'll jump into is the engineering evaluation. Here, you can see also there's, required tasks here, and all of this is very configurable, and we can add new tasks as we identify that must be tracked. However, we wanted to demonstrate another feature is the flexibility within the system. Like we know, any evaluation, any process, this applies to all the tasks here. There could be, it's not the same, and there could be new additional tasks that the team or the engineer deemed necessary to demonstrate, right? To show it here, to document it here. Maybe it took a lot of resource. Maybe there's documents that needs to be uploaded. So there's ability to add new tasks here. Just to be able, and due dates are optional, required is optional, and so once you do that, though, you have the ability to really document that I'm spending this amount of time on this. If there was a discussion back and forth, it can be documented here. So that's one of the flexibility of the system. It allows you to add custom tasks or activity into a task at any level here. So I'm not going to click through the rest of it just to do the same thing. I guess here's a feature that we wanted to demonstrate here is the electronic document library. It's been a pain, and I know Jason has always said that is to be able to have to print all the documents out, compile them into a folder, and pass them around. So this system now has a electronic document library that puts everything together. And it actually archives and checks in all the documents throughout the life cycle of our evaluation. So for now, on this tab is all the documents that came through the online application filing. You can see so this is all pretend data. Like that's shown. It's all checked into our document management library here. So all the information that was submitted, the plot plan, everything. And then on this side, we can see this one document that we just uploaded through the additional information request is showing here. So this will act as a central place for everyone to quickly see everything related to this application evaluation. So that's a feature that we're excited about. I think this will represent an efficiency gain for a lot of us. And here, the next one I wanted to show is our workflow engine. And realize sometimes it's really difficult to demonstrate workflow engines because you have to log in to different people and jumping between screens. So I promise I'll only show this one, but this applies to all of the review processes that we have. So it's a very flexible workflow engine that we built. So here we're under the SQL process. But first, we have to determine sequence needed. I should have clicked sequence needed. So once we do, then I have to complete preparing the document. Let's prepare. Then I'm working hard to prepare everything. Then our internal process requires that the document be reviewed by either the supervisor or the manager before forwarding to our SQL for review. So that's what this is demonstrating.
If you said this, how are documents being populated? Is that the applicant
So both.
uploads it?
Yeah, so if it came through online application filing, the applicants, as part of the steps, will be required to upload the documents. And some of the forms that you fill in online actually get turned into those documents too. And they're all checked in. That's how you saw that document library. Yeah.
And if there's a request, then the permit engineer can email and say, please upload this.
Yeah, so if they need more on the additional information request, they can say back to the portal, to the online portal, and then you respond there and please upload there. Or if it's done like sent in manually or scanned into the system, then we can call and say, okay, please supply the information right now on email. I will upload it. I'll complete it. So right now, that's how everything will get into the system.
And I'll touch in on that a little bit more at the end on potential things we can do.
Yeah. So part of this workflow engine is we designed it to be very flexible, not to lock in anything. So two things I wanted to show. One is as the engineer, I can choose the supervisor that will review. Because there has been a lot of reorganization and things. So we don't want to log into the report to relationship. People can choose the next level. Second thing is there are documents that need a manager review. Some may not. So in this case, there's a capability to add or remove. So if the supervisor deems that, oh, I need a manager review or even Jason's review or Jillian's review, they can add them into the workflow later. So everything is flexible and it doesn't lock anything in. You don't have to change or reconfigure anything. So right now I'm going to remove one so we don't have to be jumping all over. And we're just going to submit this to the supervisor. And then I'll do the one jump that we'll do to get out into a different login. So right now it shows that it was sent for review. So I'll log out. Zoom screen. Logging as the supervisor. So maybe the first thing I want to demonstrate, show that here is, since we're here, is as a supervisor, you can see the dashboard is actually different. This side, it shows the engineer that's within the team and shows their workload. And you can drill into their workload to see what type of application they may have, what's assigned to them. And then there's the team transfer requests for applications. So that's what a supervisor's role is. And so those are available here for the supervisor to work. And so we'll jump into the workflow. This is the application that we were submitted. So the goal is to have everything in one place. So any engineer supervisor can quickly see that information, that task, and deal with it quickly. So like you see, all the information for the same application is pulled up. We can review all the documents needed. Once we do, we can approve or return back for comments or for changes. So in this case, we're just going to approve. So it's out of our list. Backing as a engineer. So now the application that we were working on now shows on top of the list because it was the most recent activity. And then within this process. So there's another thing is the tasks can be done in parallel, right? So while you're waiting the SQL review, you can actually move on to the other tasks and continue them if you needed to. So it's not locking you in and you have to wait sequentially for that.
I'll say the current practices is replacing right now is a stack of folders on a desk. So this is all central. Engineers have all developed their own individual tracking sheets. But this will help bring it all together because it's not like we have access to all of that information.
So so I just wanted to show that the SQL process is complete, it's approved. And then the engineer can move on to the next step available here. So I won't go through everything. So here's I guess the feature that Jason's most excited about is the recent activity. So this actually captures the entire activity of the application. So it shows the entire history of the application. These are all the activities that we just did. We completed the tasks for the SQL review, and it's all showing here. Of course, it can be filtered into only the task level, and activity. But what it is because we built this workflow to contain all steps related to an engineering evaluation, this will offer us that data set that's needed for real-time analysis of data, real-time dashboarding, and then maybe even future predictive forecasting. So this data will be really, valuable to our team and the agency. So we can develop much more reports and as we see needed, but just to show that all the information now is available for one application process. And then there's one more feature to show was there's a daily log that allows our team to keep track of the applications and the hours spent on the application. This will try to give us more information on our resource allocations and analysis. So you can just add the ones that we did or add the application that we just did and show that. So I won't show you clicking through that. So one last thing, I guess, is back to the completed list. Just to click through a completed one, just to have that. As you see, this is test obviously, but all the breadcrumbs, the milestones are completed. All the tasks here are completed. And so we have a full tracking of the application process here. Yeah. So that actually concludes our demo for the system. And we're happy to answer any questions.
Couple questions.
Go ahead.
So when everything's completed, like you had up there, so that, I guess I was curious about, so final permit issuance. I mean, other districts, actually, we get, we receive them electronically. And so I was just curious how that step's gonna play out.
Here's the last step here, the permit services step. That's where the permits gets printed and generated. And the plan is actually to start generating electronic permits and send them out electronically.
The other part of that is then we're curious about, it always seems hit and miss when these show up in like the find database, like when we're just trying to see the most recent permits, especially for like reclaim permits. And so do you think this will improve that process, or is it just not something that's going to be that flow through to the find database for like?
It will, because all the documents that we're working on here are all tracked in our OnBase, in our document management system. So even the final issuance will be there. However, I would say we're still working on once we have all the data collected here, we're still working on that published dashboard and the public inquiry part. So we'll probably enhance that as we go to make it more, because then everything is not scanned in, because everything will be issued electronically. We'll have a document of every one of them, right? So how to show them will be our future.
Okay, and then my last follow-on question, not really to do with the presentation, but I mean, recently I found out, like, for minor source reclaim, I mean, like, you can't use the electronic filing systems for the certain categories of app. And I was just curious about that because it seems, I mean, there's the option in there that it can transfer to an engineer, but the upfront system seems a very simple way to get all the data into the district. And so I was just curious about that. I mean, it seemed an excellent step to be able to get all the initial information in, but I guess currently reclaims just precluded.
And you're talking about reclaim permitting is?
Right.
Oh, okay.
And I'm talking about like for our recent was the IC engines.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes. So this is being done in steps, manageable steps, so we don't
Okay.
bite off more than we can chew right now. Sorry to all Title V and reclaim sources. We are starting with the minor sources just because it's more manageable as we build it out. The reclaim is going to be the big, heavy lift. We use what we call facility permits program. That is, I think, the big task ahead of us to figure out how we're going to integrate all of that. Break it down and build it back up to get all the elements we need and get rid of a lot of the elements that are hindering permit processing. So that is going to be the next step. Right now, this is the workflow, and we'll be able to intake it.
But we were just curious because, to us, for those certain modules that you can do electronically, it was a simple, because we have a lot of different types of permits, even though we're one facility. So like spray booths and engines, it would have been simple to at least get all the data front loaded and then it just can get transferred to an engineer. But so we're just curious about that.
We'll get to that point. Right now, it's the initial testing phases. We're starting with gas stations right now, just because it's high volume. We're trying to get that down in the Schedule A, fee schedule. So we're just trying to get engineers to use it, make any tweaks we need. But I mean, looking ahead, there's a lot of potential here as we get into electronic forms. I mean, early month ago, we had the public working group for the open process tank calculations. But I mean, looking ahead, I mean, there is potential of building that in that calculation spreadsheet into our permit applications, and then it feeds in, and you're not dealing with a linear process anymore. Is now you have data and calculations that engineers can start to use. So it's being more fluid, and like Zim was saying, it's configurable to what we need, and that's what we've been missing. We've been working around the system a lot. There's just been a lot of data entry.
Thanks.
So David and then Bill.
Thank you very much for the effort. It's a monumental effort. It's going definitely in the right direction. Hopefully make your job easier and get permits issued faster. That's great. Quick question on the process. I assume it's going to be more of a standardized process as a tool. But one question I have is some of the optional tasks for the permit engineer, saying, here's the task, and there's some optional ones. I assume that's flexibility built in the system,
Yes.
But as you narrow this down for types of facilities or types of sources, that'll be more standardized?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, in terms of we use CEQA as an example.
Right.
That may just be a pre-screening step, the form for some. There's not going to be a full CEQA analysis with a document that needs to go along through the review chain for that. So, I mean, just as an example, I think.
Yeah, you have like the health risk assessment,
Yeah.
some can get by on the tier 1, tier 2s, right? And others is a full tier 4. So it kind of, that's I think what we're, it's like, it's there to remind them like, oh, yes, let me make sure, but not everyone needs it. So I think that is what it's there sometimes as a little reminder of like, did you do this step? And that's what we're doing. And then part of like what Jason said, it's trying it out first with the gas stations. If, we can get through those and then opening it up to the other equipment types and start building on progress before we get to the much more complicated Reclaim Title V.
Any thoughts on when you'd have online applications be kind of the mandatory way of doing things? I know this system might take a while to actually implement,
Yes.
but getting the data in so you don't have the hard copies, is that something would be done sooner?
I would love to get to that point. I don't know if we can commit to a date yet, but I mean, that is, I think, the ultimate goal. I mean, I think we've always said some entities will still want paper or just, for their familiarity, but I think that's the ultimate push, but I think we're
And
still
it will
really
make the
early.
Integration much easier. Right, in
Yes.
some sense.
But that's the whole point, yeah.
We've also looked into like, if we get paper, then it's the scanning in it.
Yes.
It's getting it in there. So maybe, the applicant doesn't put it in electronically, but ultimately it makes it.
Correct.
You want as many people as possible to do it electronically, and then if you need a hard copy, then it's a couple things that are scanned out.
Yes, exactly.
Correct.
And that's what we're working.
Yeah, and the first step is going to be, I think we had a working group meeting about those forms, those electronic forms. And so that is what we're going to build out, the electronic forms. And then, within the workflow, maybe seeing if there's a way that those entry points then actually make it into the eval or, into a HRA or something where we can build that kind of functionality. So we cut out some redundancy, and then also when you start taking numbers and inputting them in different places, you can make mistakes. So trying to, have that flow through, hopefully that helps cut down some of the
The
time.
hard copy that people fill out, if they do it by hand, recognition isn't perfect.
Absolutely.
Something that Zin did not present was contemplating, but we do have some mapping functions built in for distances and things like that. Will be helpful, but again, it's all in the system. So as this transfers or you look back at old ones, it is there and we're not.
And one thing
Outside
about
sources.
I guess the foundation that we built is it's very scalable. So it allows us to really plug in a lot of the tools. So if we had calculation tools, they could be just directly plugged into the system and integrated. So everything will still flow seamlessly and data will be captured.
Yeah, and Bill, I see your hand raised and also some in our attendees, but data being captured is the big one. I mean, our second item, I think you've all seen us present data in this task force, ad nauseum, but this will make that data handling a heck of a lot easier than the pulling of the data and creating charts, which are just snapshots. This will make it a heck of a lot easier to have everything at our fingertips. Since looking at the diary of events that's happened, that's almost, something we have to go. We get an inquiry of like, okay, where are we at? And then the engineer creates a flow, something like that. But it's when we present in-process applications, what does that really mean? Is it sitting on a desk waiting for an engineer to get to it, or are they actively working on it and, the hours being put into it? So it really creates much better picture, finer detail on where problem areas are going to be or what's flowing. I am anxiously awaiting that point, but again, it's small steps to get there. I mean, even something like the dashboard where engineers are now going, you have to log in, change the status in the dashboard, do that on a weekly basis for all your applications. But if you have 80 applications, it adds up. It's taking away those small steps, which are really in aggregate taking a lot of time. Go to the rest of our task force members. Bill Quinn, I see your hand raised.
Thank you. Very exciting. Looking forward for you to expand this to larger sources, larger permits. One thing that I think would be important is to get feedback from the users. So I'm thinking that it might make sense for you to start off with some pilot programs with larger users and working with them on some of their more complex permits and getting their reaction at the same time as you're evaluating your progress, so that the system is going to work for both your team and for the applicant.
Yeah. No, I do appreciate that input. I think for gas stations, we have one lined up, but not in the testing phase yet, but we have been in communication with them again, heavy user to begin using this program and seeing how it, goes through the steps.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. So let me pause there. I'll go to open it up for public comment with our attendees. First comment is Kevin Cosgrove. Kevin, go ahead.
Still muted.
You're still muted, Kevin. Should be able to unmute though. There we go.
Okay, you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, really sounds great, the system. I am curious though, how are you going to handle confidential information?
That is, yeah. In terms of CBI, I mean, this is still all within our system. This is not public facing as we go through this. So a lot of that will be managed the same. In one of the sidebar that Zen did have CBI there, confidential business information. So that is one of the things we're contemplating. Things can still come in labeled as confidential, and we'll go through those reviews. But for some larger facilities that have some large CBI requests, we're going to be working on how that process is handled, and maybe even moving it up earlier in the process. So typically what we've done in the past is that comes at the end, so it may be seen as a delay, but if it's something we can bring it up in the permitting process, we won't have that lag. So I'd say similar, but just within this system. Thank you.
Okay.
Next up, Natasha Mescal. Go ahead, Natasha.
She's done.
Natasha, you're unmuted, but we're not hearing you. I'm not sure. No? All right. Sorry about that, Natasha. Not sure why we're not hearing you, but we will move on. But want to thank IM. We're going to continue to work on this, but wanted to, this is the slide that we presented in the PEP update to the board a couple months ago, but some of the work that's going behind it. So it is this balance of keeping up production while still developing the system with IM, but it is, putting a lot of effort into it. It is a longer term project, but we're taking it in manageable steps. So, more updates to come in the future, for all of this, but I want to thank our IM staff for the heavy lifts. Saad Karam is here, and a lot of work ahead of us, but it's really exciting. So looking forward to sharing more developments in the future. All right, thank you very much. We will move on to next slide, please. And next, I think we got one more. Next slide. All right, we are going to get into a general permitting update. As I said at the beginning, this is something we've been wanting to get to for a little bit, but next slide, please. So a lot of the last couple of years, we've been focusing on staffing, and then as we got staff in place and trained, production, and we're in a good place right now with production and trying to maintain that. But as we do so now, we're taking a new look at how our pending application inventory and what it consists of and how we present it with our reporting in this task force and other places. But historical approach has just been focusing on the overall number and trying to keep that within a target number. The downside of some of this is it did focus or put unintended priority on some of the easier applications just to get numbers, down in the overall inventory. Some of the more complicated or identified lesser priority applications may have sat, but then as time goes on, this adds to the inventory. We got to get to them. So looking back last fiscal year, in addition to our production goal, we did have 2 application initiatives with, for aged applications. But we're trying to, rather than just continue to have these initiatives to drive down the application numbers, really dissect what we have in our inventory, because there really are different types of applications we're dealing with and creating these application bins, we're calling them. First split, is our 2 major permitting programs, Title V and non-Title V, that are the biggest differences. But as we go through this, you'll see some of what we're working on. So let's go to our next slide, please. So this is, again, this is a snapshot. What we focused on for this presentation, it was the numbers at the end of third quarter 2025. Like I said, limitations of the current system has us looking at snapshots of data. But you see the large volume of the minor source applications we have. We have a lot coming in. Again, this is over the period of 3 months, and we have a lot going out in our minor source program. Less or so on the major sources. You have larger facilities, greater emissions here, so there's greater requirements, which require more evaluation. So you see a lot lesser, but still the incoming and outgoing. But considering we have about 300, just over 300 Title V facilities and I think we're at around 25,000 of total permitted facilities. So the balance of those are typically minor sources. But you see that for Title V, that takes up about a third of what we're working with. So it's a lot of work on those facilities. We still get a lot of volume considering the amount of facility we have in that program. So wanted to show that breakdown here. Let's go to our next slide, please. Again, for our task force members, if you have questions during this, please jump in. This is going to be a discussion. It's want to just throw out what we're working through here. We're very open to feedback as we're developing plans on how to work on all of these. But what we've done is we have broken down the pending inventory into, we recognized 8 discrete bins in here, but there is, and I'll walk through them, is awaiting pre-screening. Those are just newly submitted permit applications that come into the permit services team and then get quickly transferred to a permit processing team. And then the next bin is the awaiting permit to construct. I think this is one of the more high profile things I think we all recognize is a company submits a permit application. They want to install a new piece of equipment, haven't done so already, and are awaiting staff to act on that permit before moving forward with construction and operation. So the next bin is those that have bypassed, for whatever reason, the permitting process and have installed, modified the equipment, potentially started operating it without a permit. You may hear us refer to those as class 3 in our vernacular. Those have typically, I would say, got lesser priority on the permit processing side because the company's already installed it, so we're not hearing from them, but there is still an importance to jump on these because they may be operating without permit conditions. So there is that concern, and we're taking a new focus at that. The other, so the fourth bin is Title V permit renewals. Again, we have about 300 plus Title V facilities that need to go through the renewal process once every 5 years. This is actually the field that made us think of breaking it down into bins because these are a single permit application. However, staff needs to review all of the permits within the facility permit. So it's a lot of work, but inventory wise, it only shows up as one application. And then for the next 2 bins, we have a catch-all, other applications broken down by administrative and non-administrative. I would say the difference is the non-administrative typically has some sort of evaluation that's needed for approval. And then next is the permit to construct issued. Those are the files that we have in-house that staff has acted on, issued a permit to construct, the file still kept open, waiting for construction and some sort of compliance verification before we finalize and issue the final permit to operate and then close out the file. And then the last one is a really different one, unique one, is emission reduction credit applications, which are non-administrative in nature. So moving ahead on this is we're going to be focusing on 7 of the 8 bins. Our awaiting pre-screening is really has historically been a very short transition as it comes in, as we try and get those 2 within the teams in the week. So it's not much, as long as that process is still happening, and we haven't had problems there. There's no real reason to report that separately as it'll quickly transition into one of the other 7 bins. Go ahead.
That's the question. So has there been any decision or discussion made with respect to getting rid of the class 3 designation? And it's, we look at it that, so equipment installed without a permit is a risk. And then a lot of times our administrative permits get held up for a very long time, even though they're very important to us.
Mm-hmm.
They get assigned class 3 designation, and so they sit for sometimes extended periods of time. And so it's just the question. about-
Yeah, so I think there is, a nice detail in there. It can be class 3, but you're still waiting for an action for us. And I think that's why we want to divide this out of what is awaiting the district, simply because it's not class 3. We do understand that there are modifications or something that needs to be done that somebody else is waiting for us to act on it. So I think as part of this process, we're taking that into account of making sure those are given, maybe not the highest, but the proper priority so they don't sit on a back burner somewhere. Yeah, and you'll see the breakdown on these. Next slide, please. Transition this. Oh, I do. Apologies, I do have the clicker. So breaking down the total application inventory, both in the minor source and Title V, you do see some major major categories that take up most of the inventory that we've seen. I'll say on the minor source side, there is the equipment awaiting permits to construct, as I mentioned, a very large component. Well, let me jump to the bottom. In the blue, we have permits to construct we've already issued. And then in the middle, in the light yellow, it's the equipment installed without permits to construct, which, as we started this endeavor, I think was eye-opening in terms of the actual volume of those we have in. Those do become more difficult to process since they haven't taken in, well, in some instances, haven't taken into account certain regulatory requirements before we get them in-house. I will say, from my personal experience, it does take a lot of our time and resources on these facilities. So it's something we're really diving into right now. On the Title V side, the same two first categories are still I'd say the primary drivers on or have the largest component of the inventory. It's awaiting PC and the PCs issued. A larger component, as you mentioned, Bill, is the non-administrative, the other apps. Some of those are admin. So I think it's something we need to do, maybe look at what the breakdown of those are on the Title V side. I'm theorizing these are Title V facilities that have been established a long time. I've been working with their facility permits for a while and make changes here to there, but again, may be important.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, for us, it's all reclaim, but
Okay.
but
Yes.
they're important.
So there is the reclaim component to it. Again, this allows us to dive further into those to see what we may be missing by taking too high level of a look at it. Next slide, please. I'm going to take a moment here. Thank you. Sorry, we have some noise outside of the room that we need to address, but I will keep moving along. So this is the first bin. This is the awaiting permit to construct. This is always the major concern we hear about when we present these numbers. But let me first identify that in terms of age designation, I will admit we started with some slightly arbitrary numbers, but we needed to start somewhere just to try and break down a priority here. So we did it as greater than 2 years on the minor source side and greater than 3 years on Title V side. We completely understand that, there is still a need to look at permits before it reaches that designation, but this is all just trying to focus in on some highlighted problem areas that we should address first and then working through the process. Again, you see the volume coming into the minor source side. We've got about 100 or so facilities that are, over 100 years, sorry, over 2 years, 100 applications over 2 years. And then similar on the Title V aged application. Not everything is aged, and we try to keep the green apps in that zone and get them out in time. But you see the magnitude over the course of a quarter of what we have incoming and outgoing over the 2 years. I'm just going to go through quickly on these bins just to hit the highlights. And again, I have slides. So bin 2 is, as I said, probably our one of our top 2 priorities we've identified through this effort. On the minor source side, this is now turned into the biggest source of our aged applications. So we are going to be working over the next year and into the future on how to better handle these applications. Again, maybe acting on sooner if there is non-compliance issues that we can't resolve in the permitting process, potential denial, or identifying industry sectors that are utilizing this more often, and doing outreach with those industrial sectors. Also, staffing levels and teams if it's something that needs to be addressed. But we have honed in on what these typically are. And it's mostly the spray booths, engines, and open process tanks on the minor source side that we see occupying the aged category in this bin. So go to the next slide. For Title V renewals, I'll say, this is something historically that has been deprioritized because the facility can still operate if they have gone past their date of their Title V permit, as long as they have a timely permit renewal. Our breakdown here is with and without application shield. Obviously, there's less protections in place if a facility did not get their renewal application in time. So that's something we'll continue to keep track of, but those numbers are relatively lower. But we did, I don't think we discussed it much in task force, but we did develop and launch a Title V work plan. And this is one of the goals of that work plan, is to start identifying priorities and tiers of Title V permit renewals, and then those would then identify a target date on when we want to get those out. So Title V facilities may have seen more recent movement on this front recently, as we tried to get a lot out in 2025, and then we're going to be moving into 2026 with our next tier, but that will be an ongoing effort for renewals.
Just a question, and it's more out of curiosity. So I think South Coast is unique as far in the other areas where I've been working on Title V permits, and I mean, it's always the applicant preparing the statement of basis. And I don't know if that's a resource intensive issue for South Coast or not, but I was just curious because I don't think, at least all the areas we operate within are Title V. I mean, that's all on us. It's not the agency, they review it, but they're not the ones preparing it. So I'm just curious if it's a resource, and if that part of the process is resource intensive or not.
That is yes, it is resource intensive, but it is one of the options, I'll say, that we'll be exploring. We've recognized it too, is other jurisdictions do have Title V facilities prepare that document coming in. And there may be some, work that still needs to be done on that, recognizing, things that may not be accurate, but it would be I think, a lot less workload on staff if that were done beforehand. We have not made it a requirement yet. But thank you for bringing that up. Okay, so bin 4 and 5, we'll get into our, this is the other application categories, but again, this is going to be part of our key focus areas, which I'll identify. But on the administrative part, we do get those in and out. This is really our high volume load in the inventory. If you look at the incoming and outgoing on the minor source side, you see it in the hundreds, and our inventory tends not to get aged here on the minor source side. Title V, some aged ones, but a lot less on the administrative side. Again, these require very limited evaluation, so that facilitates more timely issuance. And then getting into the non-administrative, these are where there is some evaluation. Still have decent numbers going in and out. You see a little bit more on the age side that can add up on some the non-administrative side of things. Something, again, another driving force why we wanted to look into this is we have Title V revision applications, which is a cost recovery mechanism we have when we do revisions on whatever Title V type of Title V revision. We're now reporting those out separately because they're not really part of the action. Yes, they do get included as part of this process, but that isn't a piece of equipment that's being modified. So we do have that as a side bin with the approximately 300 revision applications that we're pulling out. So let's go to next slide. And then this is our permits to construct issued that we've acted on but are still open. And I think we presented this in a few places already. We are seeing a few more of these become aged, even though we've acted on them. This is going to be one of the things we're going to be looking at very shortly of how to reach out to facilities, see if they've completed construction, and we can close these out. It may be a source test too. And I think it's been we've had a lot of conversation on source testing delays in terms of booking source testers. No real conclusions here, but just, observations. Something that this analysis, something we may want to look into further if that is something causal. But we're going to be looking into trying to get these finalized as well to help bring down our inventory. And then lastly, this is something we really haven't dove into yet, but as part of this effort, we'll have to see if we even talked about for ERC applications is what is an appropriate time frame, because all of these are unique and different. It's not a permit application, but we do have to dive into quite a bit of records. So I think we need to sit down. We're open for feedback on the ERC timelines, but it's just really one of those different bins that doesn't lend itself to the other or being included with the other permit applications. But you see the magnitude there. It's we're in about the 50 range, and those get in and out, but tends to be a longer time frame. And then Bill, I saw you raised your hand on this one.
Yeah, do you have any idea of the quantity of say NOx emissions in the ERC applications? Because the number itself doesn't really give us an idea of how large of a bank that possibly could add to.
Yeah, I don't think we don't really have a reporting mechanism for those in progress because the request comes in, but a lot of it is the validating of what the actual numbers are. So it's tough. I think in terms of what has been approved and what is available in the open market, that is all posted online, but it's a really hard number to kind of pinpoint in reporting. Again, I would take it back and see if there's anything there. I mean, at least maybe identify contaminants being requested, but I don't know about the magnitude.
Okay, thank
It'll
you.
be tough. Yeah. All right, thank you for that. So we went through the bins and we really have boiled it down to key focus areas. It's not to lessen any of the other bins, but this is just where we recognize facilities may be waiting for us to act on, or in the cases of those without PCs, as we do have an obligation to make sure those do have enforceable requirements on those, because they are out there and installed and potentially operating. So you really do see the relative magnitude of what we're dealing with here for us to kind of make informed decisions on where our priorities will be. But I think this is, where we're focused on in developing work plans moving forward. Again, for the other apps, a lot less magnitude, but we still want to keep an eye on those. Like, Bill Pierce said, there is still facilities waiting on action on those, and then developing appropriate priorities for the other bins. But let's go on to the next slide. But like I said, staff has stabilized production. Not to say we can't do more, but we'll just see incremental increases in production as staff get more familiar with their duties and trained. But we're really focusing on this breakdown of the inventory to see how we can, where our action needs to be focused. Another thing is we didn't really identify in these slides of what we consider non-workable applications. That would be those that are maybe going through the CEQA process, or I think we have a few facilities that are idling and have asked for the permit applications to be on hold, or maybe non-compliance issues that we can't really move forward on. So we haven't identified any of that here, but again, we want to focus on some of the identified program or problem areas with those facilities that may be bypassing pre-construction review, and diving into those a little bit more. So you'll see some more action from us in the coming months on those, because something else I haven't stated yet, but we do recognize this for those going through the process properly. We need to make sure that the level playing field is still there, and make sure there's no competitive disadvantage for properly going through this process. And then on the other side is making sure we're acting on those, both sides, those going through the process, as they should, making sure we're getting to those permits in a timely manner to, we shouldn't have to incentivize that process, but make sure we're not de-incentivizing it, I guess I should say. And then, we will continue working on this Title V work plan, but for this this task force, we wanted to take a moment. We had a lighter agenda, but it is something we've been really wanting to dive into and present to the task force to see this breakdown, and ask for feedback on next steps as we work through all of this. But really does lend itself to some more strategic decision making here. So I will open it up for task force discussion. You have any questions?
So thank you for the assessment and presentation. Very helpful to look at that. I was curious, is there going to be a deeper dive? Because we've previously talked about, kind of looking where the permit is, where it may be delayed, and where the roadblocks may be in the process. So it's good to look at this and say, here's the categories. But I was curious if you're going to do a deeper dive to identify more specifically what to work on.
Yes, because I think as part of this, this is the overall division. It's the breakdown. I mentioned 3 equipment categories. This is, a lower level look at it, but I think it's now the diving in. So there are, particular permitting teams that have more of their workload in these bins that will be diving in, whether it's processes or staffing or other policy decisions. That is that deeper dive that we're going to be continuing to work on this year and the years to come, to make sure we are facilitating that process or removing obstacles.
Another quick question on your last slide, as far as the pre-construction review. It seems like the intent is you want everyone to go in, or as many should be going in, should go for a pre-construction review. Is that suggesting that people would have an easier time if they had meetings and got feedback for their application before they went in? Or you're kind of finding that the applications come in and say, hey, you should have asked us this first before you spent our time?
Yeah, there is a lot. We're always open for pre-construct or pre-application meetings to talk about the requirements. A lot of facilities find those helpful, and we do too, to make sure everything's on the table for consideration. I think I don't want to dwell on the negative, but a lot of what we're seeing with those that don't, or give us an application after the construct, is there some things that need to be undone, or maybe permit limits that have to be imposed that they really didn't plan for because they didn't take into consideration the requirements of the rule?
Is it more of people who actually build something versus?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll give an example of, you build a coating operation, invent that to control, but then those cured materials go to an oven, and then also are still emitting same emissions, but didn't do the same patching, and then being general because there is an actual example behind this, but now we have to take in those limits.
You think that would be somewhat self-correcting, that they want to do something, now they're in an enforcement problem?
Yes, and they may be getting, again, we have this, we can't necessarily wait for yet another modification, is we need limits on these, and this is how it's gonna be. And now you're gonna have to come back in, re-modify your equipment, so to speak, which is maybe nothing you planned for. And hopefully your air pollution control is sized correctly at that point. But again, the option of not acting on it is not something we don't want to do, but I think it's something that has unfortunately been lesser priority, and it's backed up on us because this does take a lot more work and hard decisions. But we're working on those. So, all right, thank you for that. There will be a lot more of this to come. Just wanted to put this out there for everyone to chew on. So I do see hands raised in our audience. I'll open up for general public comment. And Cheryl Mills, you're first up.
Hi, thank you very much. I really appreciate being invited to this forum. I am a Title V facility, and I'm very excited about the new tool that y'all are going to be utilizing to help manage permits. As the applicant for future permits to construct, I'm just curious, I didn't hear this stated, and if it was, I do apologize. Do you see this? I know it's going to help you organize and streamline and make information available to different engineers and supervisors within the AQMD organization, but do you also see that streamlining will result in time savings, meaning that the permit application process will be quicker for the applicant? Because I know now for us, it's somewhere around the 2 to 3 year that we are planning when we're submitting permit to applications for permit to construct. So I'm just curious if you see that as an improvement or an enhancement as well for the applicant, that the permit to construct will come sooner. And then I also had another question about facilities that may install equipment prior to receiving the permit to construct. I didn't know that was an option. It kind of seems like, and maybe you're just, I don't know, I had never heard of that happening, installing and operating equipment prior to a permit to construct. Can a facility do that and then come back and submit their application? So I'm just kind of curious about that.
So let me hit on number one. That's actually easier, but as far as design, that is our goal. That is the point of all of this, is to facilitate this process, make it happen sooner. I don't think we'll be perfect in all of this, but it is right now. We're designing the core of it, how it handles the information. We will be building it out in the future. This isn't something you're going to see immediately. Yes, there will be small efficiencies of staff not having to enter certain data, or it transferring, not printing, things like that. Incremental increases. As we build it out in the future, once we have that down, I think that's where our key efficiencies will be built. As we get rid of some very burdensome programs that we're using. And also the interface with the applicants and getting the information we need and how we handle that and getting it to the engineers and in what form that is. I think there's a lot of opportunity there, but the answer to your question is yes.
Okay, excellent. We're looking forward to that.
Yes. Number two, if a facility installs or operates a piece of equipment or modifies without a permit, it is a violation.
Okay.
They are eligible under 201 and 203, rules 201 and 203. Those are violations. It does happen though. Facilities do sometimes proceed without getting a permit first. And we're still, we still have to go through the process of processing those permits and getting permit conditions on those. So that's why it does make those efforts more difficult, is the proper considerations are not always considered when facilities build them. So it turns into a lot more meetings, a lot more discussions, potentially more permit applications. It takes up a lot more staff's time. So we are looking at that in terms of how to properly disincentivize that.
Right.
option.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure. It sounds like there is enforcement for that if you go that route.
Yes.
Okay. Got it. Thank you very
Yes.
much.
Thank you. All right, next up, Allison Torres.
Hi, good morning. Allison Torres with Eastern Municipal Water District, and I'm also speaking on behalf of Clean Water SoCal. I just want to say thank you so much for all your work on PEPs and for having this, these forums to kind of share the progress. The new portal is very encouraging, and the focus on these different bins and trying to identify the bottlenecks is also very encouraging. I just want to kind of throw it out there that, for our sector with the water and wastewater, I do still get a lot of feedback from our members that common permits for new installations as well as modifications, that they are still taking a very long time. In many cases, more than 2 years. So I am hoping that this deeper dive into these bins and work plans will help. And so I kind of wanted to get a better idea of what's the timeline for developing the work plans that you mentioned on the key focus groups for the bins. And I have a couple other follow-ups, but I don't know if you want me to pause.
Yeah, I'll add in probably over the next few months. We're going to start talking about it this month, and then as the first quarter goes through, we'll start to develop some steps to address it. And then obviously it takes time to jump into it as we get into aged applications and maybe things that don't have permits. It's not necessarily a flip of a switch, so it'll take some time and we adjust. Even on the Title V plan, again, we're reassessing that right now because we have the best intentions, but sometimes timelines don't always work out. So I think it's the acting on things that are within our power and then moving on it and adjusting as needed, and just staying after it and seeing the progress that we can make.
Yeah, understood. So, if there are ways, as the Clean Water SoCal or on our side as the regulated entities, that we can help to find ways to streamline or simplify or help with this process, we are more than willing. And, I know it's been kind of said before that the concept of kind of simplifying some of the complex rules, or fixing older rules to help clarify things that might help with permit streamlining. We also support, that concept if that kind of gains any traction. I do have kind of a couple just more specific questions on when you were talking about the bins. I wanted to get clarification on which bins the plans would fall in. Would that be your other apps admin bin?
That would be non-admin, right?
Yeah.
I think those we're discussing here, those fall under non-admin.
Okay, thank you for that
But
clarification.
it really does, it depends on the type of plan, I suppose, since it's a
Okay.
broad category.
Understood. And then I just kind of want to add on one of the previous comments made about the administrative applications. There are many applications that get categorized as administrative, but they they do still hold up action for the facility for projects. So, we do still see some of those take a long time for our sector, over a year. So they are still, important applications from our perspective as well. And then lastly, I wanted to just ask if there's any work being done on enhancing the online filing. We've heard of a couple roadblocks being hit on filing, like for backup generators through the online filing.
Okay. Thank you for that. Touching on your admin comment or your admin apps comment. Yeah, agree with that assessment. And that's why we're still including those in the key focus areas. So I think
Great.
that. And then in terms of the online filing, I had not heard of that, but maybe that's a offline conversation that we can dive into what the issues are.
Great. Thank you so much for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you, Allison. Next up is Natasha Mescal. Go ahead.
Hello, can we hear each other?
Yes, Natasha, we can hear
Oh,
you.
perfect. Thank you very much. Natasha Mescal with Ecotech. My question / comment is related to the first part of the presentation when you couldn't hear me. So
Sure.
first, I want to congratulate you on a massive effort. This is super exciting. Internal processing and foremost capturing all data. My question relates to output reports. Did you consider adding output reports that if facility is contacting AQMD for like what were the final emission factors used in processing the permit application? Did you consider offer a report like that? That would be super useful. Change of staff, consistently reporting in AER, and many other implications. Did you consider a report like that? Of course, it will be protected. Facility has to ask for it, not anybody else. But would you make it available, final emission factor used in processing of permit application?
Yeah, I think we can take that back. I know we had talked, informally about more under the certified permitting professional program. If we make the facilities the permit evaluation available to them. I mean, those are public information unless it's confidential. But I think, I think I understand. Yeah, the intent of what you're asking is moving forward is you would have that information for any subsequent modifications or other projects.
Any modifications, sometimes
Yeah.
stuff gets lost, stuff changes. I think it will also be beautiful if reporting facilities could keep consistent in between permit calculated emission and let's say AER calculated emissions.
Yeah. I think it's something we'll consider, and then just building on it. It's the back and forth collaboration with the engineer and the facility.
Yes.
So I think
Thank you very much.
we'll take that back. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Next up is Anthony Andrus. All right. Waiting for you to unmute, Tony. Go ahead. There we go. Tony, you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, wonderful. We submitted a number of applications for an emission reduction on a retrofit for a reclaimed Title V company. And the permits have to go to the EPA for a 45-day evaluation period. One of my questions is, if it's a reduction of emissions as opposed to an increase of emissions, is that something that could be negotiated with the EPA that could be handled by the AQMD as opposed to the EPA when it's an emission reduction?
So that is, let's see, how do I put this? It still triggers the EPA review period, regardless of reduction or increase. So that would be a change to the Title V program if we were to make that. I think how the permitting program works is it looks more at the requirements involved in the equipment, the facility potential to emit, rather than the individual permitting action if it is reduced. So I understand the intent. They are often more willing to look at those more quickly if they have the staff available to get those emission reductions done sooner. But in terms of bypassing the comment period, that's not something available to us right now. But again, I'm not saying it's not a potential good idea for a Title V report, but just not available to us at this point.
Thank you very much. One final up. In submitting expedited permits, there's a 50% surcharge on the permit application. If that, is there any consideration for if the permit is not granted within, say, 2 months, that applicant could get back his 50% surcharge?
So XPP is one of the things we've been diving into, and maybe it's something we can present it later task force. But in terms of what that fee goes to, that goes to staff time working on off hours. It covers staff overtime costs. So if it were a situation where staff had not gotten to it or had not put in any overtime hours on it, I think we've always considered that potential if the facility wishes to not have that allowance anymore. If it's gone in there, then that is what the cost covers. So that would not be eligible for a refunds. So it's not necessarily a time. It is, has staff allocated that time that is using those funds for expedited. It's off hours processing is what it is.
All right. Thank you so much for your work on this. I think everybody in our side of the aisle, so to speak, welcomes any expeditious work on permits. So appreciate the opportunity.
Great. Thank you very much. Then I want to go to one more comment we have in the room. Bill Pierce.
So, again, and I just want to say thank you for the presentations today. I mean, the direction seems to be going really well in the right direction, and be interesting next year how the discussions develop on Class 3 permits, or whether there should even be Class 3 permits, which is one of my things. And I'd be remiss because sometimes we do a lot of talking about the issues and what's going on with permitting. But I just want to reach out. Thanks to Nye's team. She's been there. Her team's been doing a lot of work to help us clean up permits at a couple of our facilities. We just appreciate all the support we've been getting. So
thank you very much for that input. And I think, this isn't, we didn't get into this overnight. It's going to take a long time to get out of, but I think the whole point of this is just identifying issues and moving on them. Just to start making or continue making progress as well. So thank you for that. So one more hand raise as we were discussing that. Rhonda, go ahead. Rhonda, you're unmuted.
Here we go. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rhonda Bouchepal. I'm representing the Orange County Sanitation District, as well as essential public utility members of Clean Water SoCal. First and foremost, thank you, Jason and the engineering team, for taking the time to perform this assessment and for preparing today's presentation. And most importantly, for partnering with the regulated industry to investigate, potential enhancement opportunities. This is a huge undertaking. We understand that, but one that is urgently necessary. So thank you for that acknowledgement, Jason. I would like to underscore the feedback that has already been shared by my colleagues, Allison Torres and David Rothbart. So there is no need to repeat that, but the need to address, these potential speed bumps in the current workflows has become the critical path. So we know and understand that this will take time, but we appreciate you prioritizing this need. So thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. And that sector continues to be a focus area for our efforts. All right. Seeing no more comments on this issue, I will move forward, and that takes us to our other business. If any task force members has any items they want to bring up, I will start with, we've talked about certified permitting professional program, and it's, you know, something we're going to be working on in 2026. Just wanted to say some CPPs will start to see feedback from us. You know, it will slowly build up, but we'll start to reach out, have those conversations. May not be formal at first, but we'll begin building on the efforts as we move forward. So just wanted to make CPPs and facilities aware of that as we near the end of this year and approach 2026. And I see a hand raised in the room. David Rothbart.
Yes, thank you. I have brought up the concept of opening up rules that may be cumbersome for permitting. And I brought up specifically something I think it's easy to start with, Rule 441, and Wayne actually said he'd look into it.
Yeah.
Just curious if you've heard anything on that one or any other rules, but I think this is a good forum to say, hey, is there something that this group could go back to, you know, rulemaking and say, we really appreciate you opening this up. It's not going to make it less stringent, it's just going to make it easier to get permits out, and just everyone will appreciate the effort. But just curious if you had any thoughts or any feedback.
So it has been discussed internally, I think, also with the board meeting last week. I think for those that did not watch, there was a discussion on new source review regulation 13. In addition, there's many rules in there, but essential public services and what is and is not defined. So that will be getting attention, which is beyond that small discussion, a big undertaking that is needed to be done. And then also 441 was discussed. We also have 431.1 on that calendar. It's all really tied in, you know, to the essential public services.
I know it's too much to say, do everything. We're just
core items. I don't think our rules team really has dates yet. I think the research review issues are clearly going to get priority from some of the board member comments. Calendar has not been identified, but those are all in the discussion and on the calendar. I'm not sure on 441 if it's on there, but we'll have to check. But yes, so we have been talking of those. It's just where they are in the priority hasn't been.
On the ERC issue is going to be a working group opened up. Are you leading that, or who's leading that effort? Do you know?
There will be planning and rules.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't call
Obviously, we use it, but yeah, that will be a normal, what you know is our normal rulemaking effort.
I had a call in for Susan. I have some ideas maybe to simplify things.
Okay, no, great. Excellent. Thank you very much. Open up other business for open comment. If anybody has any comments on what we discussed. All right, seeing none. Oh, sorry, before I close out the item, just want to remind everybody to please sign up for our distribution list for general permitting, but also this task force as well, to stay informed. As you see, we do release tools and announce meetings, and it all is all done through this sign up list. So please take a moment, scan it, go to our sign up page, and enter your email address if you are interested. Pausing there if anyone's doing it and pulling up your camera to scan it, but this is all available on our website. So I'll close out the comments on other business, and now let's open up for general public comment. If anybody has any comments on anything under the purview of the task force subcommittee that wasn't on the agenda. All right, seeing none, we will bring this meeting to a close and stop sharing the presentation. Want to thank everybody. It's been a heck of a year, and 2026 is going to be probably even more busier, but I want to thank you all for task force, for their feedback, all of you online for continuing to participate. You've all been, I think, real happy with the progress. Still got a lot more to do, but I want to wish everybody a happy holidays, and we'll see you all in 2026. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.